When there was no more Andrew Ryan, when there was no more Frank Fontaine, someone was still plotting a takeover of Rapture. With these two out of her way, it was her time to take Rapture over and mold it in her own image. She was going to create her version of a perfect utopia by using her background in psychiatry on the citizens left in Rapture. I'm of course talking about Dr. Sofia Lamb, leader of Rapture, founder of the Rapture family, and the antagonist of Bioshock 2. In today's video, we'll be talking about her backstory, which includes her hatred for Delta, her disregard for a motherly instinct towards Eleanor, life pre-Rapture, and much more. If you don't want Bioshock 2 to be spoiled for you at all, I would highly recommend going and finishing that game and coming back to this video at a later date. So, otherwise, if you don't mind, would you kindly sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Early in life, while in the care of her father, who was also a physician, she adapted his philosophy and ideology of a greater good, which he referred to as the triage imperative. She grew fond of this idea and decided to follow within his footsteps. She attended the University of Oxford and decided to study medicine, along with psychiatry. After her studies, she was living in Hiroshima during the Second World War and was working as a missionary at that time. She also provided medical attention to the survivors of the bombings. Although she herself survived the dropping of the bomb, she was informed that her close friends were killed in the Hiroshima bombings, or Hiroshima bombings. After this discovery, she was outraged to discover the fact that the United States was using the idea of a greater good, an idea that she was enamored with, if you remember, to justify their bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This event shaped her line of thinking that the world was essentially destined to destroy itself. Andrew Ryan discovered how good she was in the field of psychiatry and decided to extend an invitation to Rapture for her. He wanted her expertise to help provide counseling for Rapture's isolated citizens. Of course, she gladly accepted this invitation and was set to make her way to Rapture. After accepting Andrew Ryan's invitation to Rapture, Sofia soon started to spread her thoughts and ideals in hopes of enlightening citizens towards a quote, common good, to be able to create a true utopia, which Ryan wasn't too keen on. At first, it didn't seem like anything was out of the norm. And as a matter of fact, Lamb did many things that I truly commend her for and actually respect. I'll mention more on that in a little bit. Sofia Lamb offered free therapy sessions to those who lived within Pauper's Drop. If you guys don't know that location or don't remember, that is essentially the poorest location in all of Rapture. She intentionally threw poker games to share wealth with citizens who needed money, and she essentially created an art gallery on her own personal property of Rapture, that being in Dionysus Park. So the reason why I do commend her, even though it could have been a ruse to try to throw Andrew Ryan off, I commend her for having actual good respect for the citizens that she was taking care of. And she did have well intentions at first, but then I think over time, with being exposed to everything that was in Rapture at that time, it slowly morphed her into the person that she became during Bioshock 2. So, yes, her thoughts and good intentions might have been there first, and initially, it could have changed over time just to throw Andrew Ryan off her trail. Let me know what you guys think of that down in the comment section below. After Eleanor was born, Sofia had the idea that Eleanor would be the perfect child to be the new leader of her own utopia. However, Sofia, with pushing her ideas, and wishes on Eleanor, she was especially cruel in doing so. She didn't allow Eleanor to come into contact with any other children in Rapture, though Eleanor snuck out a few times, as demonstrated by this audio diary here.
In ethical psychiatry, we must account for...
Eleanor Lamb speaking. Mum says I'm not to play with the other children because they're being raised on a diet of dog-eat-dog. I wanted to see these dog-eaters, so I waited until Mum was gone and went out to find one. And guess what? The dog-eaters wear human skins. It makes them look just like us.
Like most of us right now, Sofia Lamb essentially self-isolated Eleanor and taught her privately, which she hoped would result in Eleanor gaining a genius-level IQ. Now that some time had passed, Sofia Lamb's influence had grown with Rapture's citizens. Thus, Andrew Ryan started to get annoyed with her and the fact of her sending an invite to Rapture in the first place. It was the ideas of Lamb's altruism versus Ryan's capitalist society, which was free of religious or government interference. So, these clashings led to a series of public debates, which he had hoped that would lessen her influence over his citizens by showcasing all of the flaws within her reasoning. Later on, Sofia Lamb's followers essentially started their own religion around her ideals and a book, hence where the Rapture family comes from. Here, instead of a Bible or another form of religious text, as I mentioned, they used her book called Unity and Metamorphosis as their Bible. Pretty odd choice, but nonetheless, I respect it. To Andrew Ryan, Lamb was an ongoing threat to Rapture. It got to the point where he broke some of his own ethical and moral codes to arrest her. He did so by giving Stanley Poole the task of spying on her and trying to gather as much dirt on Sofia as he possibly could. Eventually, enough information was gathered, and Sofia was then imprisoned in Persephone, along with a multitude of her Rapture family members. Before being incarcerated, she entrusted Grace Holloway to watch and raise Eleanor until her sentence was done. Little did she know, Eleanor wouldn't be with Grace for that much longer. While incarcerated at Persephone, Augustus Sinclair put Lamb to work as a therapist for other inmates that were also incarcerated, hoping to make them a bit more docile or more controllable. Lamb used her freedom to gain support through other prisoners, and even from some of the prison staff themselves, such as Nigel Ware. However, Sinclair soon began selling volunteer inmates to Fontaine Futuristics for test subjects and Big Daddy candidates. This situation brutally tested Lamb's ideals as she maintained her position by selecting people from her own supporters for Adam experiments. Lamb did not immediately return to Rapture after her freedom. On New Year's Eve of 1958, she journeyed to Adonis Luxury Resort and orchestrated the abduction of her daughter, Eleanor Lamb, from Subject Delta, which you see at the beginning of Bioshock 2. From 1959 to 1960, Lamb remained in Persephone, tinkering with plasmids, gene tonics, etc., on her own willing test subjects. You have to be a very powerful person to have people that are willingly opening up their bodies for you to test whatever you want on them. It's a lot of dedication. Her supporters saw Persephone as a bastion of hope from which they could eventually emerge to rebuild the city after the fighting of the Rapture Civil War was done. There's a lot of delusions here. That's one thing that I want to really reiterate to you guys. The Rapture family, and even Sofia Lamb herself, were very delusional in their thoughts and some of their flawed ideals and ideas. Sofia also made numerous visits to the near-abandoned Fontaine Futuristics, where she met Dr. Gilbert Alexander and converted him to her altruistic beliefs. With Gil's help, she also succeeded in removing the little sister mental conditioning from Eleanor. After the deaths of both Frank Fontaine and Andrew Ryan in 1960, Sofia could truly move throughout Rapture without any fear whatsoever. Eventually, she learned about Fontaine's programming of Jack, that being under the "would you kindly" phrase. She believed that this was the perfect example of her altruistic views, acting to uphold the common good without any free will whatsoever. Unfortunately, her scientific side got the best of her. She didn't really care about breaking the conditioning, and she didn't really care about the actual mind control itself. Yes, the mind control helped in terms of changing Rapture and molding it into what she wanted. She cared more about the effects of the actual conditioning process herself. That's why I said her scientific side took over. She cares about the experiment and the result, not how she gets that result, if that makes sense. Thus, Sofia Lamb began her own attempt to create an intellect that would be completely selfless and unerringly good. The plan itself involved giving the subject massive amounts of Adam. If you guys watched my Gilbert Alexander video, you would know the fate of this experiment and the fate of Gilbert Alexander. Unfortunately, at the time, Gilbert Alexander volunteered as the first subject. Unfortunately, and as I mentioned in that video, the experiment began to go wrong as the atom distorted Gilbert's genetic structure, or changing him into an all different person than when he initially went in that tank. And it's pretty heartbreaking what happens. If you guys want to watch that video, there'll be a card at the top right hand corner of the screen. She had control over most of Rapture's populace after this experiment through the influence of the Rapture family, but the little sisters who could still supply Adam were becoming too old. Thus, in 1967, she orchestrated the idea of the Big Sisters, and they were sent to the surface to abduct young girls to be converted into brand new little sisters to continue maintaining and manufacturing Adam. Now, for this lore video in particular, I want to try something new and a little bit different. As most of you know, if you follow the lore series that I do on my channel or any lore video that I make, I normally go in depth about the events within the certain game itself. So in this case, I would go in depth about Sofia Lamb's involvements or interactions within the entirety of Bioshock 2. However, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played the game. And with it just coming out on the Switch recently, to that of maybe somebody else just getting into the series, I want them to be able to experience her actions through their own personal experience. I don't want to ruin that for them. So let me know what you guys think of that moving forward with the lore videos. Should I continue to do a format like this, where I give you more of a backstory and not recap the events of the game, that way to avoid spoilers? Or should I continue to do the lore videos like how I've been doing them, giving you guys both the backstory and the recap of the character and their actions within the game itself? Please let me know down in the comment section below. That would be very much appreciated. So ladies and gentlemen, with all that being said, I do hope you enjoyed the story of Sofia Lamb. I know this one is definitely a little bit different because I didn't recap the events in Bioshock 2, but I do hope you understand as to why I want to try a different format in this video. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I don't want someone to come here and get the game ruined for them. I know I might have done that in the past with some of my other lore videos, and I'm terribly sorry for that. So let me know if I should continue this moving forward. Other than that, if you guys did enjoy it, would you kindly drop a like or a dislike if you didn't enjoy it, and let me know what I can do to make future videos better for you. But if you do drop a like, it helps the video get out there, it helps the channel grow and bring in more people to the Rapture family, and it also helps the videos get into recommendations, so that would be very much appreciated of you. If you're new here and enjoy Bioshock content and want to see more, would you consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on all post notifications to never miss a video or a future live stream? Thank you very much. And if you want to stay up to date with me or talk to me outside of YouTube, my social medias are the best ways to do so. All the links will be down in the description below. Thank you all so very much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all in the next video. Peace.